Good evening, folks, and welcome back to another episode of NASCAR Backmarker Battles. I'm your host of the ARC Racing Podcast, Colby Evans, aka Starting Car from Twitter, and we have a huge show for you guys today. And I do mean huge. We are reviewing 3 races from It's Bristol, baby, and previewing this weekend's races at, well, everybody's favorite intermediate track, Texas Motor Speedway. It's everybody's favorite intermediate track, isn't it? But yeah, guys, big show today. This is the playoffs. All 3 series are in the playoffs, so lots to talk about there. We have some charter sales coming along. Unfortunately, one of our favorite backmarker teams will not be full-time next year, so we'll talk about that as well. It sucks, but it's the nature of the NASCAR business. But like I said, we'll talk about all that good stuff as we get along with the show. And I'm telling you guys, some of these backmarker battles are getting close. The bonuses for these teams, that extra money, they're going after that. So, and lots to cover to guys today. So I hope you guys are in here for the long haul. It's going to be a long show for you guys. So you guys know the drill, though. We're going to go through my little intro. Follow me on social media, Starting Park Car on Twitter for all ARCA lower budget news and all the other kind of crap you got. Excuse me. All the kind of guys, stuff you guys know I like to tweet. Like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on that bell for all notifications. You guys never miss a podcast when we go live. And then, of course, check out the Racing Experts for all NASCAR meet-related content. All right, so let's get right into it, shall we? It's Bristol, baby. It was a very fun weekend of racing at Bristol under the lights. Just nothing better to me than Bristol under the lights. We had all 4 major NASCAR series there. I mean, yeah, it's ARC has got its own name, but it's a NASCAR series now, so it kind of counts. Truck and ARCA raced on Thursday, Xfinity on Friday night, and of course, Cup Series on Saturday night. Personally, before we start, kind of curious to see what you guys thought of the weekend. I personally thought that the Xfinity race stole the weekend. Unshockingly, of course. I mean, it's a shocker. The Xfinity race steals another weekend. But yeah, I thought it was Xfinity, Truck, ARCA, and honestly, I didn't really like the Cup race. I'll be honest with you right now. You guys can put what you guys thought of the weekend in the chat, but I still don't like these cars on the short tracks. I still feel like there's a lot of work to do. But we'll talk about the Cup race in a second. We've got the 2023 UNOH 200. We had 38 trucks for 36 spots. So we were going to have some DNQs here. Some of the oddball entries, like we discussed on last week's show. We had the 44 of Danny Bond. Remember him? He was a former driver for On Point Motorsports. Justin Carroll was back in his 90 truck. Memphis Villarreal was in the 33 for Rayome after Mason Maggio, the original driver, couldn't come up with the funding. Connor Jones was back in another run for the 66. Jake Drew is back in the 61 again for Hattori. And then, of course, we had Bailey Curry in the 41 again. And other than that, it was just kind of the regular guys. Also with Caden Honeycutt in the 02. So, decent field of trucks. Again, the Truck Series at Bristol, always one of the better shows overall. The Truck Series, especially on these short tracks, even with the Ilmore motors, they're pretty even. So it's kind of hard for some teams to stand out. The highlight of the Backmarkers, obviously, for the Bristol Truck Series race was Stephen Malazzi, which was pretty cool. He's a real-life waiter at Outback Steakhouse. He simply put out a tweet, and it just goes to show you, man, what a simple tweet really goes to show you, man, how social media can change the game of the racing business. Stephen Malazzi putting out a simple tweet about Outback Steakhouse, and here we are just a couple months later. He's got himself a fresh Outback Steakhouse fire suit and a fresh, great-looking 22 truck. I would probably say the best, if not the best looking truck in the field. I mean, the person who designed that 22 truck did an amazing job. And it was matte. It was a matte finish wrap. It wasn't glossy. That's my favorite part. I prefer a matte finish car over a glossy car. So yeah, that was kind of the fun part, is that for the Backmarkers, we got a real shine on the Backmarker this weekend with Rayome and Stephen Malazzi. Unfortunately, Steven didn't show much in practice. He was slowest, but hey, it was his first time at Bristol, so you got to give him a pass. It's his first time. He's nervous. I don't blame him. I'd be nervous too. So the fact that I guess Steven went as fast as he did, that's fine. So again, I give him a pass. Same thing with Memphis. It was his first time at Bristol, so I give him a pass as well. Practice, again, didn't show much for the backmarkers. Again, a lot of these teams still managed to do well. Some of the backmarkers that did do a good job, Caden Honeycutt, unshockingly, we know Caden Honeycutt is a beast, especially on these short tracks. He was 5th in practice. Colby Howard was 11th. They were the two kind of shiners of the rear of the field that were able to crack the top 20. But yeah, a lot of guys just kind of did struggle. Unfortunately, us, the 56 truck, were only 31st. Justin Carroll was only 33rd. Danny Bowen, surprisingly, only 34th for a niche truck. That was surprising. Parker Kligerman, again, you talk about, I think, a team that was kind of shocking about how bad they dropped off compared to last year. What the heck happened to the 75 team? I mean, Parker Kligerman's team have done absolutely nothing this year. I mean, 2022 was the most competitive season that we have ever seen Henderson Motorsports ever run. I think they only had one finish in 2022 outside of the top 10 did the 75 team last year, including a win. I think, they won Mid-Ohio last year. So then coming into this year, you'd think, well, they would continue that hot streak. Their best finish this season came in this race of 18th. So after having all those top 10 finishes, including the win in 2022, Henderson Motorsports has had 4 DNFs and a best finish of 18th, along with a DNQ at North Wilkesboro. So I have no idea what happened to that 75 team, but man, I tell you, it's shocking to see the drop-off from that team from 2022 to this year. How you cannot even run. I mean, they can't even run top 10. And they were running top 10 like crap last year. Like I said, they were a force to be reckoned with. So it's just shocking. It makes me wonder if Parker, at this point with his full-time Xfinity program, is it even worth it running these truck races? Because you got a full-time Xfinity program, so you're doing plenty of racing. But yeah, back to practice. It was clear in practice it was going to have to be Justin Carroll and Danny Bowen picking it up in qualifying. Unfortunately, they would not do that. The only trucks that Danny and Justin beat, I believe, was just Malazzi, because even Memphis actually outran both Justin Carroll and Danny Bowen. So it's unfortunate for Justin. He suffers 2 straight DNQs at Bristol, which sucks because I really like Justin Carroll. We all like Justin Carroll. That is now the second DNQ for the Nice 44 truck, and I'll say that's quite surprising to see the Nice 42 truck, the 44th truck, DNQ, especially when you have another Nice truck who qualified second. So you had a Nice truck miss the race, and you had another Nice truck qualify second. It's weird. So unfortunate for Danny Bowen. I think it's just, Nice, they already got 3 full-time trucks. Running a 4th truck for a team like them, I think it's just you're spreading yourselves way too thin. You're trying to give these other guys a chance to drive your equipment, and you're not doing enough, man. Like I said, 2 DNQs now for the 44 truck, and yet you have another truck in the playoffs. It's weird. I've never seen a playoff team DNQ one of their trucks. So I don't know. That just seemed odd, but sucks for Danny Bowen, sucks for Justin Carroll. Needless to say, we had our field of trucks for the night. No real backmarkers did an ordinarily great job. No one in the top 10. Caden Honeycutt could only muster 17th. He was the only real kind of backmarker team in the top 20. The race gets going, and boy, I'll tell you this. It was definitely the Christian Eckes show. He led a whopping 150 of the 200 laps. Not much attrition, I will say, in this race. Only 4 cautions, especially if you take out the 2 stages. So really, for a truck race, I would say this. Stages need to go away on short track races. I think one of the biggest problems with the truck race, and maybe even with the ARCA race too, was they didn't have enough time to get momentum going in the race, is what I mean. When you look at the lap counts, the average run of the race was 33.4 laps. But before that final run of 80 laps, they had like the longest run was like 30 laps. which is a decent amount of time, but at Bristol, it's sorry, it's still not enough to really get the race into gear. So I just felt like it didn't have enough time to click. It didn't have enough time to really sink in. And it was just shocking to me how a truck race at Bristol can have so little attrition. And I'll admit, there was not a lot of attrition this whole weekend. So I don't know. I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. Were you guys, I can ask you guys in the chat, were you guys shocked about the lack of attrition that we kind of saw this whole weekend in terms of crashes, in terms of what happened? I mean, yeah, there was a lot of on-track attrition, but like I'm talking like crashes. You know, we're used to carnage, chaos at Bristol, and I'll be honest with you, we really didn't get that. I mean, in my opinion, we really didn't get that this whole weekend. It was kind of, that was, to me, that was the only real disappointment. We had our first incident on lap 14. Jack Wood and Dean Thompson, the two guys who unfortunately have crashed so much this season. A lot of Dean Thompson's not his fault. It's been a lot of Jack Wood's fault. I don't know if it was Jack Wood's fault. I think it was just a freak accident between the two of them. But either way, Jack Wood, man, I don't know. You know, whether it's his fault or whether it's someone else's fault, Jack Wood just crashes so much. Same with Dean Thompson. Most of the time for Dean Thompson, it's not his fault. Most of the time for Jack Wood, it is his fault. But these two guys have just crashed so much this season. It's like just a weekly occurrence at this point. Yeah, I think it was Jack Wood's fault, but it's just like, it's weird. And the sad part is that you see on the 51 truck, Rowdy Manufacturing, I think that's just an excuse to put a logo on the truck. It's really sad seeing the KBM 51 truck pretty much unsponsored and running like crap after seeing this team so dominant. Chase Purdy has actually managed to do a pretty solid job in the 4 truck, way better. I mean, Chase Purdy has done way better than I thought he would do in that 4 truck. Dean Thompson, I hope Dean Thompson gets another year at Tricon. Obviously, he's got the sponsorship behind him, but I hope he gets another year at Tricon. I think he deserves it. Because the moments where we've seen him put together a full race, he's done an amazing job. We know he can do it. I mean, you saw Dean Thompson's run at Charlotte. Ran top 7 the entire race. Ran top 5, I think that last run. I think, he finished 3rd? Dean Thompson can do it. He just needs to have the luck. Jack Wood, I don't know. Jack Wood's just pretty much crashed in everything he's in. I mean, his season last year in the 24 truck was horrible. And this season, the 51 truck hasn't been much better. So that was kind of the big moment of the whole race in reality. Other than that, we only had one other caution in the race, and that was on lap 76. Poor Greg Van Alst. I mean, I don't know what's going wrong. And I don't know if it's time to talk about it yet, but just like, is Greg Van Alst just not meant for NASCAR? I mean, this guy is so solid in ARCA. He races professionally. I'm not saying he doesn't race professionally in NASCAR. He does. But is this guy just not meant to be in NASCAR? It's like every time Greg is behind the wheel, he's either slow or the car breaks. I mean, we know his couple of races for Alpha Prime weren't anything special, but all of his races for Young's Motorsports have not been anything special. He's only finished, I believe, 1 race his entire NASCAR tenure. And I love Greg Van Alst. I mean, this is coming from a huge Greg Van Alst fan. But I'm just shocked at how bad Greg is doing. Is it him? Is it Young's? Who knows? I mean, we know Young's, judging by Spencer Boyd, Young's doesn't always have the most amazing speed. Is it, Greg trying to adjust to the truck series, drafting and driving style? I don't know. But I feel like Greg would benefit from going back down to ARC. I honestly feel like Greg would benefit going back to ARC at this point and running full-time there. I really do. Because, I mean, his Xfinity tenure did not go well, and his truck series tenure right now is not going very well. I hope Talladega, he can finally do something at Talladega and maybe show what he showed at Daytona this year in the ARCA race. But I have no idea why Greg is running this bad. I mean, at Kansas, yeah, he finished Kansas, but he had no speed at all. He showed no speed at all at Kansas, but he finished at least. I don't think it's Greg. I think I don't want to blame Young's Motorsports, but we've seen Young's Motorsports have slow trucks before. We've seen them put more effort into one truck than the others, and I just wonder, man, if they're not putting as much effort in the 20, despite the 20 probably having decent sponsorship over the 02. So, yeah, poor Greg. Whether he was slow I mean, think about it. He ran top 5 in the ARCA race, top 5 in the ARCA race, and couldn't even run top 28 in the truck race. I don't even know if he ran top 30 in the truck race. I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on here, but this partnership with Young's, it just does not seem to be working. And frankly, I wish Greg would go back to full-time ARCA, because there he got great TV time. It's not like Greg was not getting TV time in ARCA. He was. And he had very solid finishes. He didn't crash hardly at all. When he did crash, it was someone else's fault that he just couldn't avoid. And I mean, let's face it, had he run the full ARCA season this year, he probably would have had a second place points finish and likely a top 5 finish in the owner standings. So still would have been a very good year. And who knows, maybe Van Els would have pulled off a miracle win. We'll never know. But part of me really wishes that Greg had kept going after Charlotte. I know it was his only Mustang body, because right now I don't think Greg has any more Mustang bodies. That was his only one, but I just don't think Greg is getting the return that he should be from Young's Motorsports. And he was the only other DNF. We only had 3 DNFs. Like I said, the attrition rate in this race just didn't feel as high as it should be. We only had 3 DNFs. We had that final green flag run of 80 laps. Lots of guys struggled in this race. I have no idea what happened to William Sawalich. Does anyone know what happened to William Sawalich? He was running like top 10, and then all of a sudden lost 3 laps and finished like 30th. Tanner Gray, I mean, he does what Tanner Gray does best. He qualifies great and then runs like crap. Caden Honeycutt, he really couldn't get out of the box from starting at the rear. Timmy Hill, I'll say 26 was about where we were going to run. Thankfully, we avoided getting a lap down early, and Timmy was able to stay in the thick of the things. I love how, and my favorite part of the race was Timmy staying on the lead lap in the end of stage 2. That was fun. Watching Timmy race for his life, trying to stay on the lead lap. That was fun. I'll admit this. So that was cool to see Timmy get some cool TV time. Memphis was actually doing a good job, but then he had to come down pit road. Malazzi, he just kind of struggled for speed. Like we kind of knew he was. We knew that Steven was going to struggle. But it's okay. Like I said, it's his first Bristol start. I know the team was egging him on the radio, trying to make him go faster, get in the corner harder. But again, Steven was nervous, and I get it, dude. You're driving for your boss. You know that if you wreck the truck, you're gonna have to fix it yourself with Josh. You don't want to do that. So I get it. So, but yeah, very low attrition rate. And despite looking like he had the race locked up, Corey Heim was able to get past Christian Eckes with maybe a little bit of help from the 15 truck. That's up for you to decide. But Corey Heim went on to win. He is now locked into Phoenix. Christian Eckes, unfortunately, has to finish second. But if he can just continue a decent run at Talladega, he'll likely point his way into Phoenix. As for some other drivers in the field, DiBenedetto was still able to score a top 10. We'll get to him in a second. No real backmarkers were able to do well. I guess maybe you could count Carson Quaffle, but, when Spire runs the truck program, they're actually competitive, unlike their cup program. So I don't know if you can really count him. Like I said, Parker Klickerman's team only 18th. You wouldn't even have known the 75 truck was in the field. Colby Howard, like I said, he was kind of the top one, 22nd, and then Caden Honeycutt, 25th, Timmy Hill, 26th, Brett Holmes, 27th, Lawless Allen, 28th, Spencer Boyd, 31st, and Malazzi, 32nd, Memphis, 33rd. So, for the truck series backmarkers, Bristol was a struggle. Bristol was definitely a struggle, but, everybody made it through pretty well unscathed. I don't think there was really any damage to really any trucks other than the 51 and the 5. So I guess you could count that as a bonus in some way. Heading into Talladega, which is the next race for the trucks, they are not racing at Texas. We can talk about some battles right now. The top 20 and the owner's points. Again, the number 1 Tricon entry has missed 2 races, so they are ineligible for the bonus. You must attempt all the races to be eligible. Hard to believe the number 1 Tricon truck was not scheduled to run this many races, but it has. So right now there actually is an open spot, and right now GMS Racing is holding on to the last 2 positions in the top 20. with the number 13, 9, and 56 trucks looking in. However, it doesn't look like at this point the 9 or the 56 truck will be able to crack the top 20. The 13 might have a chance at it. Right now, the 13 truck is only 12 points behind. So if you guys do want to watch a mid-truck battle, Hailie Deegan versus Daniel Dye versus the 13 truck versus the 43 truck. I'm not sure how much the bonus is, but I know it's the top 20. That's all I really know, is that it's the top 20 bonus. So if you guys do want to watch an interesting bonus for the last couple races, watch the 43 truck, watch the 13 truck, as they are trying to be the last truck inside that top 20 in points for a little bonus money from NASCAR. And of course, like I said, Tricon and Corey, I'm going to the championship. My championship 4, I guess I can give it right now, that I predict for for Phoenix. Corey Heim, I already had him in my final 4. I had Carson Hocevar, so Corey Heim, Carson Hocevar, Grant Enfinger, and I actually had Sanchez as my final 4. Heim, Hocevar, Enfinger, and Sanchez. Right now, 3 of my 4 are already in the final 4. Hopefully, Nick Sanchez can have a good run at Talladega. He's pretty much in a must-win. He's 22 points out, so he needs a good run. But there was some bombshell Truck Series news that a lot of us did not expect to see over this past week. And that was that although it was well known that Matt DiBenedetto was not going to be returning to the 25 truck in 2024, Matt DiBenedetto's not even returning to the 25 truck at all this season. He has been, they have parted ways. It does not sound like that the parting of ways was good. It does not sound like it was a nice split. And just shocks me, man. It really shocks me. Right now, DiBenedetto is 9th in points. Would have easily had a top 10 points finish, guaranteed. Not sure what that does to his playoffs berth. I think he probably will just lock in 10th place. But with 3 races to go, man, it makes you wonder who they're going to put in the truck. Will we see Willie Allen? Will we see Willie Allen in the 25 again, like we saw him at Talladega a couple years ago? Obviously, Willie's, I think the Rackley War's son will probably drive that truck at some point, but he's not approved to run Talladega. So that begs the question, who's going to run the truck at Homestead and Talladega? They got to be approved for 1.5-mile tracks. They got to be a driver that's affiliated with Chevrolet. And I know this pick might come out of left field. We have no idea who's going to drive the truck. Who do you guys think is going to drive the truck? I'll say this, my pick, and I think it's only because he's got the money and he's won plate races, I think it's going to be Noah Gragson. I think this is where Noah Gragson makes his way back into NASCAR, where he's driving the truck at at Talladega and Homestead. Maybe not Phoenix, but I think this is where Noah Gragson makes his return. I don't know. You guys can put who you want in the chat. I just personally think it's going to be Noah Gragson because Gragson's got the money. I mean, Gragson's loaded, whether we like him or not. I know some people don't like him. I don't really like what he did either. I don't. But we know he's got money. We know he's loaded. We know he'll get it right. Gragson will be back, whether you like it or not. I'm sorry. I know some people don't like to hear that, but that's just the truth. It's the sad truth. Someone said Clay Greenfield. That wouldn't be a bad choice. Would not be a bad choice considering Clay's past relationship with Rackley Roofing as a previous sponsor. Let's see. Anyone else? I don't know. That's just who I think. It makes sense. To Chevrolet driver Josh Berry, maybe because it's an Xfinity off weekend, that could be a choice. Willie Allen, like I said, Willie Allen himself could drive it again. He drove it at 2021. Greg Galding, that's not a bad choice. He's a Chevrolet driver. Johnny Sauter, that's not a bad choice either. Johnny, G2G pretty much killed Johnny Sauter's entire Truck Series career. Matt Mills, no. But Johnny Sauter, I think that'd be a great option for a plate race. And Johnny Sauter would be up for that truck because that truck's actually competitive and it wouldn't break. Timothy Peters, that's not a bad option either. Not a bad option. Well, I mean, the split between Rackley and Timothy Peters in the beginning of 2022 wasn't exactly pretty, so I don't know about that. Anybody else you guys got in the chat? I still think it's going to be Gregson at the end of the day. Yeah, Norm Benning. Well, he'll be there. Norm Benning will be there in his own truck. TJ Bell, I mean, I think he's all but retired. He's doing spotting gigs now. Anybody else? Yeah, I know Timothy Peters. That'd be cool. Moffitt, no. Well, I don't know. Cole Witt, yeah, we wish. Brett Moffitt, that could be a choice too. That really could be a choice, considering his Xfinity program's not running. But yeah, lots of good choices I see in the chat, guys. I just personally think it's going to be Gregson because to me it makes too much sense. Oh yeah, Clay Greenfield will be in the 95 truck. He'll be in his own truck next week. That's right. So it won't be Clay Greenfield. Yeah, the 95 truck will be at Talladega. So, I don't know. There's lots of choices, but I just think Noah Gragson makes too much sense for the 25 truck. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but we'll see. We'll see. The entry list for Dega, I think it's going to be almost 40 trucks, 40 to 42 trucks. Because we know Jennifer Jo Cobb will be there as well. So, but that was the Truck Series race. We'll cover more at Talladega when we get to the preview show. For that Backmarker battles. The race was okay. Again, I just kind of wish there was more attrition to the Bristol race. But I give it a 6.5 to 7 out of 10. Okay, but definitely for my taste, not what I was kind of looking for. Xfinity, boy, if there's one series we can always count on, it's the Xfinity series. What a banger of a race. I mean, this race was absolutely just even with some lack of attrition, although it finally picked up, we had some great racing. We had the aging veteran who showed he could still go with the young guns. I mean, this race had everything you could ask. I loved it. My opinion, this race gets a solid 9 out of 10. Solid 9 out of 10. We had 39 cars for 38 spots for this race. Like I said, we went over that on last week's show. Some of the oddball entries, we'll go over them again. We had Stefan Parsons back in the 07 again. Chad Fincham back in the 08. Derek Krause has now been back in the 11 as Hemrick has been moved to the 10. Trevor Bayne was back in the 19. Patrick Emmerling was in the 35. Raja Karuth was back with Alpha Prime in the 44. Jeffrey Earnhardt in the 45. BJ McLeod, yes, BJ McLeod was back in the Xfinity Series for the first time in a while in the 53. And some young rookie named Dale Earnhardt Jr. Yes, Dale Earnhardt Jr. was driving for Dale Earnhardt Jr. So I wonder who that rookie was. And then we had Josh Bilicki in the 91. So the 20-minute practice session had quite a bit of chaos in it. Jeb Burton on his very first lap of practice blew a tire and hit the wall. The 35 of Patrick Emmerling blew a tire and hit the wall. And the 53 of BJ McLeod blew a tire but did not hit the wall. Yeah, there was a lot of carnage in this practice session, unfortunately for the Backmarkers, and also unfortunately for Emmerling Gase Motorsports. But yeah, it really just goes to show you how close the Xfinity Series field is. First to 38th. First to 38th, mind you. Only separated by 0.4 of a second. And that tells you, man, just how close this Xfinity Series field has gotten. So, yeah, I'll say this. It's amazing how close this Xfinity Series field has gotten. Some backmarkers that shined in practice, not really any. I would say Jeffrey Earnhardt, he had a great car for this race, 17th. Josh Williams, 20th. But that was kind of it. A lot of them kind of struggled in the rear. Timmy Hill, he struggled for speed. I was only 35th. BJ really struggled. He was only 36th. Like I said, there was one car that was going to go home. Unfortunately, due to the crash of Patrick Emmerling and Emmerling Gase Motorsports not having a backup car, they withdrew the 53 entry, which really sucks because had they had a backup car, the 53 would have actually made the race because the 66 did not crack the top 33. The only reason why the 66 made the race was because the 53 withdrew. So one team's misfortune is another team's great luck. And that's the story of the Backmarkers in the Xfinity Series garage. That's for sure. But yeah, qualifying, the Backmarkers that did a good job in qualifying. We know Jeremy Clements is a beast on short tracks. 9th place for him, did a great job. Dale Earnhardt Jr. locked himself in very solidly, 15th. Jeffrey Earnhardt qualified 17th. Williams 20th. So they practiced and qualified in the same exact positions. Like I said, Timmy Hill was only 34th, so he would have missed the show, but because of the 53 withdrawing, that meant the 66 car has now made 3 straight races. And boy, I have not been so excited to say that in my life. Hard to believe. This is the only time this year where MBM has made 3 straight races, but you know what? I'm all here for it. I'm all here for it. It does suck, though, for Emerling Gase Motorsports. They've really had a rough, and I mean a rough patch lately. The 35 car has done okay, but man, that 53 car has had a rough go, and I mean a rough go. Really, really rough. So I hope things can turn around. I wonder if they'll still even be at 2 cars next year. I hope they are. But man, Emerling Gase Motorsports really struggled, has really, really struggled. So I hope things can turn around for them. We only got a couple races left, so if they're hurting, hopefully they can just make it through the rest of the year and get something better worked out for next season. And yes, just to have you guys know, CJ McLaughlin is no longer affiliated with Emerling Gase Motorsports, and he is now part of a 5-race deal with RSS Racing with SciApps' sponsorship on the 39. That's why Kyle Sieg's in the 29 again, because part of his sponsorship deal was CJ McLaughlin running 5 races in the RSS 28 car, and that started at Kansas. His second race in that car will be at Texas. Of course, we'll get to that in a second. So yeah, for Patrick Emerling, they did keep BJ in the 35 car. It was the same car that BJ was driving, so they just let him start it. Jeb Burton, he had to go to a backup car. It was kind of funny. It was a Celsius wrap. So Celsius basically got free sponsorship for this race. Poor Alsco didn't even get their sponsorship on the car. And yeah, this race compared to the truck race had just unbelievable attrition. The attrition rate in this race was through the damn roof. You had cars running on the bottom. You had cars running on the top. And surprisingly, we went over half this race, mind you, with no cautions, no nothing. But boy, did it pick up after that. I mean, it picked up like crazy after the first half. In the first half, we did have a couple backmarkers drop out, and man, my heart hurt. I was listening to the 66 radio with Timmy Hill, and the car was running fantastic. Timmy started, like I said, he started 34th, made his way into the top 30 early, and got as high as 24th. I mean, if we could have finished that race, there's no doubt in my mind MBM Motorsports would have had a top 20 finish. Absolutely. Absolutely would have had a top 20 finish. That car was a rocket ship. Unfortunately, though, I was listening to the 66 radio. Timmy hit the wall a couple of times, and something started to burn. There was smoke in the car. Something was starting to burn. Unfortunately, it broke my heart. Running 24th, man. Running 24th on track. Came down, and pushed it behind the wall. And sure enough, they were burning up gear oil. Smelled like crap. And it does smell like crap. For the fans who have never smelled burned up gear oil, it's one of the worst smells you can absolutely smell at the track. It's a smell that once you smell it, you'll never forget it. You'll instantly know what it is. So that sucked for MBM. Everybody was disappointed on the radios, but they said, and I'm glad they said this, we showed these guys we can still do this. We've shown these guys we're still here to play. And that, in my opinion, that's a great confidence booster. And they have. The races that MBM has made this year, they've shown they're not, the slowest guy out there just collecting a paycheck. They're here to race. The 3 races in a row that they've made, they've been competitive. Leland was competitive at Kansas. Timmy was competitive at Bristol before he broke. And even at Darlington, we weren't the slowest car. I mean, we were not the fastest, but we were not the slowest by any means. We could contend with other cars. So MBM's got speed. We just got to make races. That's the problem. So that was unfortunate for Timmy. BJ McLeod, BJ was slow. BJ went a lot of laps down early, in and out of the garage area with power steering issues. It was a long night for Emmerling Gase. I mean, it was bad enough they had to withdraw the 53 car due to damage with the 35. And even the car that BJ was running was not well. It was not fast. It handled like crap. BJ kept saying the power steering was going out on the car. He could barely turn the car, which was causing him to go slower and slower and slower. So eventually they retired the car after completing 117 laps. So like I said, I hope things can turn around. I really do hope things can turn around for Emmerling Gase Motorsports, because it makes me sad to see them struggle, because Joey Gase is a fellow Iowa boy. And I don't want to see anybody from my home state struggling. So for Joey Gase, I really hope things get better for that team. I love Patrick Emmerling as well. No, got to throw him in there too. But breaks my heart to see Joey Gase struggling this bad. Hopefully they can recover, because, again, Joey Gase, fellow Iowan. But yeah, other than that, those two cars were the real attrition rate of the first half. And then came the second half. And we had Cole Custer dominating. He led the first 108 laps. Then Justin Allgaier got out front. And then right as we took the second half, boy, did it get exciting. The young rookie himself at 48 years old, Dale Earnhardt Jr. takes the lead. And boy, I will say this, my dad went absolutely apeshit. I'm not afraid to say that on it. My dad was going apeshit. We couldn't believe it. I mean, I expected Dale to run top 10, top 5 maybe. But my dad and I had no clue that this guy was going to go up there and lead the damn race. And not just lead the race, pull away from the field and actually look like he's got a shot at winning this thing. It was awesome. So then I turned on Junior's radio. And I'm telling you, for the people, I hope you guys listened to the 88 radio during that Xfinity race. This guy was having the time of his life out there. I have not heard Junior having so much fun on the radio. It was so much fun to hear. I was so glad to see him having fun. You know, he doesn't get to race that much often anymore. He's doing a lot more late model racing. So when you see him at this high level and showing that he can still do it, it's so refreshing, because we know his last couple of Cup seasons were not the best. 2016 and 17 were not particularly good years for Dale Earnhardt Jr. as a driver. I don't think that was him. I think that was Hendrick's equipment. Of course, I think they were giving all the good stuff to Chase Elliott and Jimmy Johnson. In my personal opinion, I think Junior was getting the short end of the stick, as well as Casey Kane. And I think it's races like this. I think his Xfinity starts over the last couple of years have really shown Junior never lost it. I think Hendrick just was not giving him the equipment that he deserved. So, and man, I tell you, there was a lot of people hoping. Junior Nation was hoping, man. I know we're here to talk about backmarker battles. I know we're here to talk about the backmarkers, but I just had to throw that in there, man. My dad and I were going crazy that Dale Jr. was leading. Unfortunately, the fun wouldn't last forever. We'll get to that in a second. And for Junior Motorsports, the fun really wouldn't last forever, because right after the end of the stage, we had our first caution flag. We had another weird crash and turn. Now, I don't know how to explain this, but Josh Berry and Sam Mayer were racing together, okay? They made contact coming off of turn 4. And unfortunately, what that did is I believe it cut down Josh Berry's left front tire. And unfortunately, they went into the corner. Josh Berry's car didn't stick, and he just went right into the one car of Sam Mayer, took them both out. And who's the car behind them that has to get collected into this but Brandon Jones? So you had 3 JRM cars get wiped out in one crash. And I mean, not just crashed. These cars were killed. They're going to need some major, major work if they want to return to the track. So it amazes me how Dale Jr. can just, there he is out there having a great run. There's Justin Allgaier out there having a great run. And the other 3 JRM cars pile into each other. It's like, come on, guys. What are we doing out here? So that eliminated the 1 and the 8. The 9 tried to continue, but too much damage. They would later fall out of the race as well. Then we had more teammate drama. The 2 and the 21 coming off of turn 4. The 2, in my opinion, though, I don't think it falls on Sheldon Creed as much as people are saying. I really don't. I don't think it falls on Sheldon Creed as much as people are saying. In my personal opinion, Sheldon Creed, he was running the bottom. He was coming off a turn 4. The 21 came off the wall. In my personal opinion, the 21 came off the wall. The 2 had nowhere to go. What's he supposed to do? In that moment, you have probably, 1 second of reaction time? There was nothing that Sheldon Creed could have done to avoid that collision. Had Austin Hill stayed up near the wall, I think they would have not crashed. But in my personal opinion, I blame that on the 21. I do not blame that on Sheldon Creed. I don't know what your guys' take on it is, but I think that was more on the 21, to be honest with you. And I'm glad that the commentators did multiple replays of that crash, really to kind of outline that likely was not all Sheldon Creed's fault and how the 21 could have done something else to avoid the crash. But needless to say, this does not help the playoff hopes for them. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't blame that all on Sheldon Creed. I think a lot of that really was Austin Hill. And then poor Jeffrey Earnhardt. Jeffrey Earnhardt at one point was running top 10. At one point, we had 2 Earnhardts in the top 10. So that was kind of cool to see again. We don't see that very often. But he got shuffled out. He got spun out, I think, by Jeb Burton. They were beating the crap out of each other on track. Jeffrey cut a tire. And then, fortunately, a brake failure caused him to retire the car. Parker Kligerman, he had to go to the garage to fix something in the suspension. And, by this point, we had kind of trimmed down a couple cars. Dale Jr. Pitted. A couple of cars stayed out. Allgaier and Hemrick stayed out. Allgaier was leading on old tires. And then Daniel Hemrick got passed when Allgaier went out to go to pit road, I mean. And I'll say this about Daniel Hemrick. I'm really hard on Daniel Hemrick sometimes. I can be hard on Daniel Hemrick, like he hasn't won, he hasn't done much. But I will say this about Daniel Hemrick. He was out there on old tires and really he was running the race of his career, in my opinion. Not that race at Phoenix where he won the championship. This race, he was driving his balls off. Seriously. With the way he was driving that car on old tires compared to everyone else, I don't know what that says, though. I think it does kind of suck, though, that, better tires could not pass the leader simply because he was running the high line. And one of my big problems of Bristol is the fact that even if you have a better car, as long as that other car is running the high line, you just ain't going to pass him unless you have a really good turning car. So guys like Junior, he wasn't going to pass him. Nemechek wasn't going to pass him. And Allgaier finally worked him over enough. Allgaier got past him. But during that final run, poor Junebug, I had listened to Junior's radio, and he had complained of something smoking, something's burning. And he reported that about 3 or 4 laps. And you heard him talk about it on the Dale Jr. download too. But I heard him talk about 3 to 4 laps before he went off track. He would say about every lap, something's burning, something's burning. And then eventually he said, I'm coming to you guys. It's burning bad. It's burning bad. Because I think at that point he could see the fire. So he pulled down pit road. And I think it was kind of cool the way he detailed it in the Dale Jr. download. He said he was kind of trying to find a pit stall where they were paying attention. And so he found the 20 box. Those guys yanked him right out of there. And unfortunately, it was just a small fire in the foot bay down lower near the car by his feet. His ankle was burned up. But it sucks, man. Junior Nation, even if we could have gotten a top 5 finish, that would have been so nice. So, sucks for Dale Jr. So, for JRM, Justin Allgaier, like I said, we'll get back to the lead battle. Justin Allgaier holds on. He wins the race. So, JRM win 30th. Win 30th. 34th, 35th, 36th. That's such a weird finishing rate for a team. Win 30th, 34th, 35th, 36th. It's like, good thing Allgaier won the race. They can use the purse money to fix the cars. It's weird. It really is weird. Meanwhile, on that, some backmarkers were able to sneak in there for some good runs. Lots of guys struggled in the race. Brett Moffitt, he struggled outside the top 30 for a lot of the race, recovered to 16th. Kaz Grala, he qualified like crap. He finished 31st. He started 31st, I should say. He got his way up to a top 10 finish. Ryan Sieg, 6th. Great run for them. Jeb Burton, I'll say this, for a backup car with no laps at Bristol, not really set up for Bristol either. It was a Darlington primary. 13th. Great run for him. 2 Alpha Prime cars in the top 20. Raja 17th, Ryan Ellis 18th. Stephon Parsons, after running outside the top 30 most of the race, he recovered to 19th. Josh Williams 20th. Kyle Sieg, in my opinion, one of the more underrated guys. 21st. Brennan Poole 22nd. Kyle Weatherman 23rd. Decent runs for all those teams. Jeremy Clements 24th. I would say that's a disappointment for them. Anthony Alfredo, they just can't catch any luck. I think, I don't know what Anthony does next year. It would not shock me if we do not see Anthony Alfredo with BJ McLeod Motorsports next year. I think Anthony will go somewhere else. Again, the whole deal with BJ in general was kind of a last-minute deal. But we got to remember the SciAps deal is only because of CJ McLaughlin. But still, great to see the 39 car did find sponsorship nonetheless. But yeah, great run, some great backmarker runs, great race. I give it a solid 9 out of 10. The backmarker battles coming out of this race, guys, it's really heating up in that top 30 10K bonus. The top 20 bonus as well, the 80K bonus as well for the top 20 in driver's points. We'll start off with that one. That is a pretty good contested battle right now. Now, as you guys know, in the Xfinity Series, the top 20, now this does not require you to start all 33 races, although more than likely the guys who started all 33 races would be the guys battling for this. But in the Xfinity Series, in the drivers, you get $80,000. Yes, that's a nice chunk of change right there. $80,000 for finishing inside the top 20 in driver's points and in owner's points. It goes both ways. And right now, the top 20 in driver's points, the last 2 in the driver's points, 19th place is Jeremy Clements, who's pretty well locked in. And then you got 20th place, Anthony Alfredo. Kyle Sieg right now is only 7 points behind. And this is pretty impressive, the fact that Kyle Sieg has actually missed 2 races. 2 races. He hasn't DNQ'd. He's just missed 2 races. And he's still in this battle. He's 7 points behind Anthony Alfredo. So this weekend at Texas, guys, keep an eye on that 78 and 28, man. You know, for Alfredo and that team, they got to stay in that top 20 because, man, 80K goes a long way. But for Kyle Sieg, man, and the RSS team, they already got Ryan Sieg in the top 20. It'd be really beneficial if they could get Kyle Sieg in that top 20 as well to get that extra $80,000. So it's Anthony versus Kyle Sieg this weekend to see who can finish higher. And then in the owner's points, again, the top 20 in owner's points get that $80,000. That right now, the last 2 positions is being held by the number 26 Sam Hunt team and the number 39 RSS Racing team. Now, the gap right now is pretty big with only 6 races to go, 52 points. And that separates the 39 from the 51. So for Jeremy Clements and Ryan Sieg, man, it's going to be a pretty tight battle. I wouldn't say that's out of the picture, though, with Talladega coming up, Martinsville coming up. We know how those cars can run on those tracks. I think the battle is still pretty heavily there. The battle for the top 30 10K bonus, as you know, is definitely heating up. I think the biggest problem for our motorsports was losing that precious top 30 $7,000. Not 10K bonus, it's $7,000. My apologies there. But yeah, $7,000. Again, props, and I really do mean this, props to Brennan Poole and JD Motorsports for getting that 6 car back in there. Pretty impressive by them. Alpha Prime, they're still hanging on with the 43 car. Pretty hefty gap right now as well. 29 points separates 30th to 31st. As of now, both Emerling Gase cars are missing out on the bonus. Both SS Greenlight cars are missing out on the bonus. The 44 Alpha Prime car, the 4 JD car, the 02 car, which had been in the top 30 most of the season, is no longer in there. And, of course, the 66 is not in there as well. So lots of heavy hitters not in that top 30 7K bonus. Yeah, man, the Xfinity Series field, it's lighting up, guys. You got to keep an eye on this every week. And remember, for those teams in the top 30 10K bonus, it's even bigger for them in 2024. Because remember, the top 30 teams are locked into that 10K bonus for the first 3 races of 2024. 2024 because that's what they use for owner points. So it's even bigger for those organizations to finish top 30 because that is a guaranteed extra $21,000 for their season starting in 2024 if we ever get the schedule. So, yeah, keep an eye on that, guys. That's very, very big for those organizations. We won't talk about this one much because, again, guys, I personally did not enjoy it. I don't know what your opinion of the Cup race was. I personally did not enjoy it. Yeah, I know I'm not a Hamlin fan, but I still honestly did not overly enjoy the race as a whole. Not much attrition. We did have some couple of crashes with Albendinger and Cindric. We had the big stage 2 crash, which unfortunately wiped out the 51 car, not what they needed. Although it did wipe out the 77, so I guess it did help them in some ways. And a couple of other minor incidents, but really nothing big compared to what we're used to at Bristol. We only had like 23, 24 cars finish this race last year, so the attrition rate was not as high for this race. We did have our first round of eliminations for this race, unfortunately. The eliminators were Michael McDowell, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., which we kind of knew, but we wanted to see if the Backmarkers could contend. Joey Logano, last year's champion. That was kind of a shocker. And Kevin Harvick. So Uncle Grandpa will not be fighting for a championship any longer. Overall, like I said, I personally did not enjoy the Cup race. Personally, I thought last year's was better just because of the attrition rate. I really thought last year's race was better because of the attrition rate. I like an attrition-rated race. So you're right. J.J. Yeley was pretty good. In fact, J.J. Yeley was actually faster than Kevin Harvick for pretty much the entire race. That was funny. J.J. Yeley on pure pace was actually faster than Kevin Harvick pretty much this entire race. I don't know what that says about SHR, but that's not good. That's not good at all when J.J. Yeley is beating you on pure pace. I will say this, with no official Chevrolet support, remember that 43 team and 42 team are not getting the Chevrolet support that Hendrick is getting, that Trackhouse is getting. Carson Hocevar, man, I really do take back everything bad I've said about the 42 team. Was it Noah Gragson? Maybe it was, because holy crap has this team turned it around. Great job by Carson Hocevar. I mean, he is consistently getting the best runs of this 42 car that it's gotten ever since it was brought back. I mean, 3 straight top 20 finishes. 3 straight. And he finished top 10 in stage 2. And finally got a big shout out by Dale Earnhardt Jr. on commentary. But it's, I mean, think about it. Even Mike Rockenfeller at Watkins Glen got a top 20. So it's like, boy, Gragson was doing dog crap in that car. And ever since they took him out of that car, they've gotten 4 top 20 finishes, which they would have dreamed of beginning of this year. So just great. I mean, I'm so proud of Carson Hocevar. So proud of them. I agree. Yeah, put J.J. Yeley in the 10 car. Although at this point, putting J.J. Yeley in the 10 car might actually be a downgrade in some way. And yeah, in the 43, they're doing better too. So it's just great to see Legacy Motor Club, despite not having any RE support, they are doing a great job. Yeah, like I said, overall, I don't know. You guys have liked the race. Good. I didn't. It was kind of cool seeing Corey LaJoie lead part of the race, I guess. I can't deny that. He led from lap 72 to 119. And I know a lot of that was kind of under rain. I know it was, but still kind of cool seeing Corey LaJoie get a lot of laps led. Kind of cool to see Gainbridge or Nigu, I'm sorry, his sponsor, get some good TV time. Penske was junk in this race. They all 3 cars did not really do very well. A lot of the higher profile cars did not do very well. Stenhouse, I mean, I'll say this, despite them not making the playoffs next round, Michael McDowell, he went down swinging, 6th place. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. went down swinging, top 10 finish. So those guys may not have made it to the next round, but they did not go down swinging, and I appreciate that. Todd Gilliland also got a solid 16th place finish. So some back markers and lower tier teams were able to sneak in there. So that's always good to see. Overall, like I said, didn't really care for the race, especially the winner. I made it clear I'm not a Hamlin fan. Yeley got a very decent 26th place finish. BJ was able to nurse it for 31st. We'll get to that news in a second. And, of course, 33rd for Ty Dillon and last for Ryan Newman. So the top 33 charter battle coming out of that race. Again, first off, the top 25 end-of-season bonus. Top 25 Cup teams get a $1 million bonus. So, yeah, you talk about $80,000 in Xfinity. $1 million bonus for the top 25 teams. Right now, the last spot in that $1 million bonus is going to the 43 of Legacy Motor Club. So they definitely need that $1 million to step up their program for next year. So right now, the cars looking in are Colleague and the 7 Spire team. Right now, the 31 Colleague car is 6 points outside the top 25, and the number 7 car is 14 points outside of the top 25. Again, it's $1 million. So for the 31 and the 7 team, they're going to be racing hard. For the top 33 charter battle, the 42 is pulled away. They're more than safe now. It has come down to the 2 Rick Ware cars and the 77. Now, for the 15 car, he is now back inside the top 33 in points. Unfortunately, that is not the Rick Ware car that needs to be in the top 33. The 51 does. And unfortunately for the 51, due to their last place finish, they are now 10 points, which for them is a lot. 10 points behind the 15 car and 5 behind the 77. Now, obviously, with Talladega looming, that can all change very quickly. I definitely feel Talladega will be the deciding race for that top 33 charter battle. Absolutely. They finished tight. They finished 11th in the spring race. So J.J. Yeley can do it, unless they have Ryan Newman driving the car at Talladega as well. So, yeah, that was Bristol. I think it was okay. Overall, I give the weekend a solid, I would say a solid 7 out of 10 overall for a weekend at Bristol. Not the best Bristol weekend, but still a solid one. I think if you went there, you got your money's worth. Whew. So, yeah, that was Bristol. Now we move on to everybody's favorite, and I mean everybody's favorite, 1.5-mile track, Texas Motor Speedway. I know you're all just bursting, and I mean bursting with excitement to sorry, I can't keep it together. You're all bursting with excitement to watch these Texas races this weekend. No truck race at Texas in the fall anymore. Kind of missed that. Truck Series at Texas actually put on a decent show. Lost my connection there for a second. We're still good? We're good? All right. Are we still connected, guys? I lost my connection there for a second. Can you guys still see me and understand me? Just want to make sure real quick. Just someone say yes in the chat if you can still see and hear me. Okay, good. Okay, we're good. We're good. So, yeah, we got Texas this weekend, just the Xfinity Series and Cup Series. Obviously, we're going to talk about the new might as well talk about the news before we get to the Xfinity Series. I forgot to talk about this. Livefast Motorsports has sold their charter. Yes, I know. It's kind of sad. Livefast Motorsports has sold its charter over to Spire Motorsports. And Spire Motorsports will now field a third full-time car in 2024. It will be driven by Zane Smith. So Ford losing yet another prospect. I don't know what the heck's going on with TRD and Ford, man. But they are really losing a lot of great prospects. Sammy Smith right now is rumored to be going to JRM, which I think would be a really big mistake by Toyota, letting a guy that talented go to Chevrolet. But yeah, Zane Smith leaving Ford. We all thought he was going to be the future of Front Row Motorsports. Ford got Josh Berry, but the Ford team is nothing in my opinion. They're still not doing anything. Yeah, Zane Smith, Livefast sells the charter. Now, you got to remember, The charter was owned by Joe Falk. Joe Falk has been in a lot of partnerships ever since his split with Mike Hillman at the end of 2015. He took the charter into 2016, and remember, he partnered it with Levine Family Racing. It was Circle Sport Levine. And then from 2017, he was partnered with Circle Sport, TMG. And then if you remember 2018, 19, and 20, I believe he was with Go Fast Racing. And then after Go Fast Racing, he partnered with BJ McLeod and Matt Tiff to form Livefast Motorsports. And if I'm correct, I believe it was Joe Falk who owned 50% of the charter, and Matt Tiff and BJ McLeod only owned the other 50%. So for the people who said that BJ McLeod made out with $40 million, first off, no, he did not. If you take out probably what he had to give to Matt Tiff, BJ McLeod probably made about, $13 million, which is still a lot, yes, but he did not get $40 million. We'll make that clear. They were likely going to go to the Final Three next year and have to sell their charter next year, so the writing was on the wall. Livefast Motorsports, one of the last teams who still builds their in-house engines. They get rebuilt by ECR, but they are in-house engines. They do run ECR motors some weeks, but most of the time they are running in-house Chevrolet engines. They will be back in 2024. They did put out a statement. Saying, just kind of addressing the issue. Yes, it's true. Yes, these rumors are true. And we will be back next year. So for the people who think that the number 78 will be used by Spire Motorsports, that is not true. Livefast Motorsports, BJ McLeod still own the number 78. So I know we're sad. We will not get these Furniture Row Racing 78 font back. I know it sucks, but we will not. Livefast Racing will still be back next year on a part-time basis, likely starting at the Daytona 500, because why not? We know BJ will be at the Daytona 500. But yes, the new car number for the third Spire entry has not been determined, although I would likely say it has a number with the number 7 in it. Possibilities like that would include 07, which I would love to see that, 07, 70, maybe 71, like a Dave Marcus tribute. You could do a J.D. McDuffie tribute with 70. You could do a Dave Marcus tribute with 71. Remember, 78 is owned by Livefast, so they won't take that number. 74, that could be a choice as well. So there's a lot of choices out there of what numbers they could pick. 87, that'd be a good choice. 72, 27, you're right. There's a lot of great choices out there. It's just got to have a 7 in it, likely, because obviously the Spire, they're obsessed with the number 7. So it sucks, but it's going to happen eventually. Eventually, guys, we will have no backmarkers. We will not have full-time backmarkers in the sport. It's going to happen. I know it sucks, but that's what's going to happen. All the hate that they were getting is sad. And I will say this. I wonder who said it. Was it Freddie Kraft or Brett Griffin who said that? I'm going to look up real quick. I'm not sure exactly who said it. I know Tommy Joe Martins posted a response to this, and I wanted to talk about this for a brief moment. I'm not sure if he deleted the tweet. No, it did not. But yeah, Brett Griffin basically tweeted out saying, it's time for the guys that can't stay on the lead lap to cash out. I mean, what an idiotic statement. Now, I've openly stated I'm not the biggest fan of Brett Griffin. I think a lot of his takes on the sport are garbage. But saying stuff like that to a backmarker organization is not needed. Not needed at all. Not needed at all. Tommy Joe Martins with a great reply saying, I have a lot of respect for you, Brett. But I love how Tommy Joe Martins basically called his ass out for saying, you just continue to disrespect so many drivers and teams who try to do more with less. And it makes you entitled. So I agree a hell of a lot more with what Tommy Joe Martins said right there. I don't know. Brett Griffin, I don't like Door Bumper Clear. I'll make that clear as well. I don't like that show. I think Freddie Kraft and Brett Griffin have two of the biggest egos in the sport. I don't like that show. I think that show is hurt. Dirty Mo Media, it's not as good as it used to be. But, man, I do not like Brett Griffin. I do not like Freddie Kraft. I think their ego is jerks who just who just love what I mean, I'm not saying they don't work hard. They do. They work hard. But at the end of the day, working hard doesn't have to make you an entitled bitch. I'll say it right there. So, and it's not like Livefast is 15 seconds off the pace. Like, okay, they're slow, but it's not like we're 4 seconds a lap off the pace like we were a couple years ago. So, I don't know. I have a big problem with that too. But sucks for BJ, is what it is. Just glad we'll still get to see the 78 car next year, just on a part-time basis. But if NASCAR would give the open teams a decent payout, we would actually see some more open teams. I mean, you got to remember, these open teams are getting basically a handshake and a pat on the back for payouts. So, yeah. But let's move on to Texas, guys, and we'll get out of here. 40 cars for 38 spots. Pretty interesting entry list we got here. 40 cars for 38 spots. 2 cars are going home. The wild card entries, we got Garrett Smithley back in the 4. David Starr, Texas native, will be in the 07. J.J. Yeley, yes, everybody's favorite backmarker, will be in the 08. Lane Riggs, yes, Scott Riggs' son, will be in the 11 car. I'm wearing a Scott Riggs crew shirt. Lane Riggs will be in the 11. Trevor Bayne will continue to be in the 19. Parker Chase makes his return. He'll be in the 24 for Sam Hunt. CJ McLaughlin will be in the 28. Kyle Sieg then will be in the 29. Joey Gase will be in the 53. Daniel Dye, yes, from the Truck Series, will be running the 44. Jeffrey Earnhardt back in the 45. Patrick Emmerling in the 53. Sage Karam will be in the 66 for MBM. And CHK is back. Mike Harmon and Dawson Cram are back. Likely because this race is close to them. Texas is not a far drive from North Carolina at all. And Kyle Weatherman is back in the 91. This one is interesting because, as we know, Texas is one of those interesting racetracks where you do need power, of course, to get on and off the corners. But if you can really nail the entrance and exit into turn 1, you will have a great lap. So I think it's a real toss-up here as to who's going to go home. We know Sage is a good qualifier. He nearly missed the show at Michigan, but he made it. But they showed great speed in the race. Sage has been around that track multiple times in an Indy car, but it's not really the same as a Cup car. But he's got Texas experience nonetheless. Dawson, on the other hand, I don't know. I think that one's a long shot. The 44 does have ECR power, so they will have a great motor under the hood. I think it's wide open for the DNQs, to be honest with you. David Starr, he's got an ECR motor. We know Yeley will easily be able to qualify that 08 car into the show. If I had to be honest with you guys, the DNQs, man, it's hard to choose. I don't want to pick my Carmen. I really don't. But unfortunately, I am going with the 74, and I'm going to go with the 53. I like Patrick Emmerling, but I just think, unfortunately, the bad luck continues. I hope I'm wrong, but we'll see. But yeah, so my picks are the 74 and 53. What are your picks? 0-2 is still pretty high in the points. I think they'll be fine. Some people agree with me, 53 and 74. Some people think it's going to be 66 and 74. And I can see why. You know, Sage is inexperienced, but I think Sage will be okay. Anyone else going to chime in before we move on to Cup? 74 and 35. Wow. Okay. So they think Joey Gase is going to miss the race. All right. It's not bad. Yeah. CJ McLaughlin's probably going to crash again. That probably will happen. Again, you only got to the reason why they're putting him in the 28 car is just so he knows he's in the race because they can't trust him to make the field. And an RSS car nonetheless. At least Joe Graff Jr. can get in the show on time. But Xfinity race should be okay. Probably going to be chaotic like usual. Despite Texas being the way it is, it's kind of known for its crazy races. My pick for the race, I'll go simple. I'll pick Cole Custer to win, and my dark horse I'll go with Lane Riggs as my dark horse. We'll get this one over real quick. Cup Series at Texas, no DNQs. Of course, because why would we ever have one? 36 cars for 36 spots. BJ McLeod stays in the 78. Todd Gilliland is back in the 51 this week as Zane Smith is doing his 6-race deal, which is kind of awkward at this point, knowing that he's going to Chevrolet next year. But he's doing his 6-race deal in the 38 car. JJ Yeley will stay in the 15, and that's pretty much it. Carson Hocevar will continue to stay in the 42 car. 40 kind of went over the battles this weekend, but guys, just remember to keep an eye on all that. Texas has been shortened as well, from 334 laps to 267. So a little bit shorter race. That's fine. I don't have a problem with going to 500 to 400, but we don't need to shorten it any less than that. So I think that's all I got for you guys tonight, man. I tell you, it's been a long show tonight. We were here 70 minutes. Like I said, guys, it'll be a long show for you guys tonight, but I think we're going to get out of here now. That's about all I got for you guys tonight. We went over Bristol. We previewed Texas. Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Again, like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on that bell for all notifications. Like and subscribe to the channel. Give a like on Twitter. Give a follow on Twitter. Whatever you guys want to do. Give a like on the podcast if you enjoy it. And tune in next Tuesday for the ARCA Racing podcast because we got a couple of races to preview. And then, of course, tune in to next Thursday's show where we review Texas and preview, I believe, what? Is it Dega next week? Talladega's next week? Or am I here? I'll take a look at schedule. Yeah, Talladega's next week. So, yeah, it should be a fun podcast next week, guys. And I look forward to seeing you then. So, till next time, I'll be signing off, and I'll catch you all over the weekend and see you next Tuesday. So, I'll say salute, goodbye, salute, and Colby Evans is signing off. So long, guys.